Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast. On this episode, we welcome a very special guest. Adam Sarancik is the owner of Elevate Sports Academy and mentors student athletes in physical conditioning, nutrition, career and collegiate counseling, as well as sports skills. He has spent most of his adult life mentoring young athletes 8 to 22 years old in baseball, softball, soccer, and basketball. He earned his Bachelor of Science Degree from San Diego State University, his JD from the University of San Diego School of Law, and his Master of Arts in Teaching degree from Western Oregon University. Adam is the author of 3 Amazon Top 100 bestsellers, including Coaching for Champions for Life, The Process of Mentoring the Person, Athlete, and Player, as well as his companion book, Takeaway Quotes from Coaching Champions for Life. He includes A Ground Ball to Shortstop, How and Why Coaches See Their Game Differently Than Anyone Else. Book Authority rates Coaching Champions for Life as the number 14 all-time best baseball coaching book and the number 8 all-time best coaching ebook for baseball. Adam's articles are frequently published in ABCA's Inside Pitch, in Collegiate Baseball News, on the Sports Engine, Coaches Insider, and CoachDeck.com. And you can also find his articles on his Hot Stove page on his website, coachingchampionsforlife.com. Adam is a nationally certified impact trainer for the Positive Coaching Alliance. On this episode, we will discuss a wide variety of topics, including his person, athlete, player, teammate philosophy, and how it encompasses everything in a baseball player's life. We will discuss how prospective college players can balance athletic pursuits with a quality education. We have a discussion about early sports specialization, which is becoming an ever more relevant issue in amateur baseball. And finally, we have a great conversation on the role of technology in player development, especially in the high school and collegiate levels. It is a terrific topic with a lot of valuable information for you guys, and I know you guys will all enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it, and I thank you all again for continuing to support the show. Here he is, Adam Sarancik. All right, Coach Adam Sarancik, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Cole. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. So for people who may not know who you are, like for followers of FAST or followers of everything that we do on social media and everything like that, can you give everybody a rundown of, who Coach Adam is, where he got his start, and how he's what his coaching career has been?
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you the 90-second brief overview of, how I got to
You
where
can go
I
as
got
long
to.
as you'd like.
Well, that's all right. We got a lot of more important stuff to cover. Let me just say, first of all, thank you for your podcast and everything that you do. I've listened to them. I'm a listener. You're getting out a lot of important content, and it's important. And I really appreciate being able to participate in it. I want to thank the coaches, too, for the coaches that are listening. This is a tough job, right? And it's not getting any easier with how much players have going on and technology and everything. It's a very difficult thing. And those that do it well, as we know, as players that grew up, these are hugely important people in our lives. So thanks to all the coaches out there that are putting in all this time to be the best they can be and trying to do it the right way. Okay. Right. I grew up in Southern California, playing down there, sports, and grew up in a league that was very, very competitive and played with Hall of Famers like Gary Carter. So the quality of the ball down there was really, really high. And as a result of that, I got a pretty good idea of the difference between good and great, and the quality of, what it took as a player to be a really, really good player, the dedication and commitment and things like that. Kind of how I got into coaching is I chose to go to college for academics first, and it kind of has led to my philosophy in coaching and how you choose a college. So I went to San Diego State, and it was the first year that freshmen were allowed to play varsity baseball at the D1 level. Unfortunately, at San Diego State, they were not, except for 2 players that they had recruited. Okay. And so I tried out. I was an outfielder, and the coaches said, "You're the best outfielder I have. There's just one problem. We're not allowing freshmen to play here, because you see all those guys over there, they all went to community college for 2 years and kind of earned their stripes, and
Yeah.
we're just not ready to do that. And so they told me I was the best outfielder they had. I had a great future, but I had to go to community college and do that for 2 years, and I just didn't do it. And so those were the end of my playing days. So I had a great high school and youth career, traveled all around, played in a lot of high level teams and tournaments. But so that kind of sent a message to me like, wow, your career can end at any time, right? For whatever reason. That was kind of very early message to me that, if you're going to go on and coach, you got to make sure that you prepare these players for life after their sport. Okay. So that was kind of how that started. And then the whole connecting with the person, ironically, I was also a bodybuilding coach, particularly with female bodybuilding. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Huh.
So, and I had a lot of very successful clients as bodybuilders. The difference, though, in coaching male and female bodybuilders was that in female bodybuilders, it was a huge debriefing after the competition. You might work with them for 9 months of a year. You got them into, the best possible shape. They had a body that anybody would kill for. 2 weeks after the competition's over, they put on a little weight, and they go back to a body that any, person not competing in bodybuilding would think is the ideal body. And these women would have a huge, huge mental obstacle to overcome, thinking that their bodies were not what they wanted it to be anymore. So what it taught me was you better connect with a person going into the training, because it's key in the training, but it's also key in how they come out of the training too, and whether they're going to, have a perspective. And that's true in the athletes I coach now. If they're so obsessed with their sport and have been so for years and years and years throughout their youth, they honestly can't look at the college choice or even the career choice as an objective process, right? How many athletes after their careers literally have no idea what they're going to do with themselves because they can't, and they can't replicate the same energy and enthusiasm and vibe that they got out of their sport, right? And now it's like, how do I translate that to life? Well, I first started to learn that. To learn that, when I coached female bodybuilders back when. So from there, I coached baseball and soccer and basketball, and started out coaching like most coaches do, just winning trophies and championships. And then lucky enough to stick with it, about 10 years into my coaching career, I started getting these thank yous. And one thing I noticed was, wait a minute, these thank yous aren't saying anything about championships and trophies. They're thanking me for the impact I had on them as a person. And that sent a really, huge, impactful message to me that, maybe this isn't all about wins. Maybe the important part of this isn't about championships. Maybe it's about the impact I'm having on them as a person. That's really what they want out of this, right? And so that changed my whole philosophy. So the last 30 some years, I've done it completely different. Yeah.
Nice. No, I like that. I like that philosophy. So one of the big things, we'll get kind of into the nitty gritty of everything that you write about and are a big believer in. And so kind of the overarching, as we can go through this conversation, and you were, before we started recording, had talked about, like, you don't want to get too into the weeds on everything. But one of the big overarching philosophies you have in your writing is the person, athlete, player, teammate philosophy that you developed. Can you explain that philosophy to people who may have are not initiated to that sort of philosophy, and how do you use it to help student athletes navigate a balance between sports, academics, personal growth, and being a valuable member of a team?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'd like to do is maybe deal with each of the three things: person, athlete, player, because those three things will lead to being a good teammate. And then kind of give it from the coach's perspective and then the player's perspective, or the athlete's perspective, okay? And I'll just try to be as brief as I can, because each one is a rabbit hole. I've got a 400-page book on it, so let's,
shout out that.
Yeah, shout out that. But let's just cut to the chase and try to, give the highlights that I think everybody can relate to. So from the coach's perspective, like I say, we need a paradigm shift to realize that these team members that we have, they're more than just players, all right? People to help us win games and championships, all right? They're really a 3-part, 4-part development project, right? They're people and they're athletes and they're players. And so what you learn over time is better people allow you to train better athletes, and better people and athletes allow you to develop better players. Okay. And those people become better teammates and they become what I call champions for life. That's the goal. All right. So, and like I said before, the reason that's so important is the thank yous you're going to get 10 years later is not going to be about the wins and championships. It's going to be about how you made them a better person. Okay. So, from the coach's perspective, what you need to understand is that before you can coach them, you got to earn their trust, right? You gotta earn their trust, and earning their trust means you got to be a good listener, right? You've got to be able to validate where they are in their life at the time, what their struggles are, what their goals are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. You got to be able to understand them as a son, a daughter, a friend, a brother, a sister, a student, all these things. They have different roles. You've got to be able to connect with them, right? Once you do that, now you've got their trust, okay? And now you can start teaching them, because what you're trying to do, in my opinion, is teach them life lessons within the game for beyond the game. And the difference that I think needs to be made and is starting to be made is, since day one in the old school, we used to teach, say, like baseball. Baseball is a game of failure, and you learn by inference how to overcome adversity. Okay, we all know that. We've always done that from day one. I think we can be more proactive. I think we can actually proactively design into our training sessions, into our practice plans, into our game experiences, life lessons, role plays, quotations, things like that, where you can actually say, you know what? Here's how this connects to what you're going through in school. Here's what how this relates to you as a son or a brother or whatever. If you do that, then you'll start earning the trust of the player or the team member, that this guy has more to him than I thought. He has my heart. He has my heart and best interest in mind beyond baseball. Now you've got somebody that's fully committed. And that's what you want as a coach. As a player, what you need to realize is, and what the coaches are trying to teach you, and when you get into this, if you're playing at an elite level and you're starting to think about life after college and going into life after high school, going into college and a career, those 5 tools of baseball, for example, that your coaches have been preaching on you and trying to develop in you forever and ever, that's going to get you considered. If you do those at an elite level, all right, that'll get you considered for the college scholarship. But guess what's going to get you the college scholarship? It's the intangibles. It's the strength of your mind, the strength of your character. So the strength of your mind being things like your ability to handle pressure, overcome adversity, perseverance, things like that. Strength of your character, things like your leadership, your work ethic, your support of your teammates and coaches, those kind of things. Those intangibles are what's going to set you as a person, are going to set you above and actually get you the college scholarship, okay? Same thing in the working world. You're going to have the 5 tools, using that analogy, to get a job, all right? You're going to have valuable, transferable life skills to offer the business that they can immediately pick and plug, just like they would if you were a college baseball player. They need to look at you as a college or a high school baseball player, and they need to say, I can pick, plug, and play that guy right now into our program. But guess what's going to get you the job? It's not your tools or the valuable skills that you can transfer. That's going to get you the interview. What's going to get you the job, just like what's going to get you the scholarship, is your personal character and your personality. Can they see that your personality is going to fit their business and their teams within their business? Is your character, through your personal references or whatever, are they going to say, you know what, this person is not just a business person, this person is actually the kind of person that we want representing us, right? So those are huge. And then the same thing with applying for college. You're going to get considered for admission to the college through your elite test scores and grades, right? But that's not going to get you in to the college. What's going to get you in is all the intangibles again. It's going to be, do you speak a second language fluently? Do you have job experience in the major that you're going to pursue, or at least job shadow, or at least volunteers? Do you volunteer for charity work? Do you have outside skills? Are you elite athlete? Do you play a musical instrument on a national or international level? Those things are going to get you into those elite schools. All right. So
Right.
this message I'm trying to send to the player that, you know what, it's your person that we're trying to develop here. And it's going to help you not just in the sport, it's going to help you when you get into college, and it's going to help you when you go get a job too. All right.
I think you really touch on that point right there, or kind of build on it. It's like for guys chasing a baseball scholarship, right?
Right.
It's, you talk about the intangibles or the skills, like, for every one of you as a player, there's 10 to 20 that are the exact same player, right? But what's that thing that's going to set you apart from all those other 10 to 20, right? For, I can throw 90, but I can throw 90 as a pitcher, but there are plenty of guys who can throw 90 as a pitcher, right?
Right. Well, we have a saying in baseball, you know this, Cole, that you can't become on the mound what you're not in life.
Right.
So as a pitching coach, recruiting coach for an elite program, you're looking at the pitcher's mechanics and the fluidity of their delivery, and but you're most important. I've got guys, the elite coaches can get players from all around the country, right? So I've got tons of guys that can, hit that velo. They can sit at 92 to 95. They have 2 or 3 pitches. The question that is going to set them apart, we play for championships every year. So how does this guy handle pressure? How does he, keep his composure? Can he live in the moment, this pitch, this moment? Can he still pitch and still be a supportive teammate? Or does he go sit on the bench and just, mope when something goes bad, or throw a glove, or whatever, right? So they're looking for those character things that say, you know what, this guy is going to be an energy driver, right? He's not going to be an energy drain, right? So those are the little things that matter. Yeah.
So when you're over the course of your articles, I find it fascinating how, like what we said, is this philosophy of the person, athlete, player, teammate goes through all sorts of, not just baseball or any other sport, what have you. It's going to apply down the line in whatever career the kids that listen to this will, it's going to apply in every aspect of their life. Can you provide a specific example, or maybe like a story of a kid who kind of exemplified this philosophy and he's done wonders for himself by following it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll just give you the most recent example of a high school athlete. He's going to be a senior, and he's gone through my career college counseling course. It's a 2-year course. And one of the things that's really important that I don't think high schools do enough of is give them job shadow or actually hands-on experience to get out there and say, okay, so I think I might want to be a business marketing major in college. There's a whole process that I go through to determine their interests, their skills, their imagined lifestyle and things like that. And so he thinks he wants to be a business marketing major. All right, well, great. Well, what does that mean in the real world? So you've got to get him out there and actually do some job shadows. So I have a friend who's the CEO of an event planning company in Portland called Pinnacle Experience. So I hooked up this player with the director of marketing for the company. And we go into the whole thing with a plan, and just like you would an approach in baseball and hitting or whatever. We have questions we're going to ask. We have what we want to get out of it, etc. So he comes back from the job shadow, lasted a couple weeks, and he said, it was interesting, Coach Adam, when I asked her, how did you decide, which candidates for a job opening you were going to actually interview, and then which one of those people did you actually decide and why that you were going to hire? And she said, well, and this is the exact word she used, it was kind of a pick and plug thing. They needed to have transferable skills that we could use right away. And I had to feel like their personality and character would fit right in with our marketing team. And he said, Coach, that kind of sounded like my high school varsity baseball coach. He talks about what college recruiters are looking for. And this whole pick, plug, and play thing was just as applicable to the business world as it was to, my desire to play college baseball. It was the same concept. They're looking for the same thing. They're not just looking for any old skills. They're looking for elite skills that are immediately transferable to their program. And they're looking for me as a person that, hey, this guy will fit right in. And I tell that to my high school players all the time. When a college coach comes to see you play, he needs to say, you know what? That player is really familiar, not by name, but they're familiar because I see that every day at practice. He looks like one of us. So I can pick, plug, and play that guy into my program right now. That's when I know I have somebody that I really want as, a recruit,
Right.
And it's the same thing in the business world.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same thing in the business world.
Nice. So we can move on and we'll talk about one of your articles that I was a really big fan of is your sport is an extracurricular activity, not a career. And I think that is a very, very powerful headline for a lot of guys who, and it's something we'll get into a little bit later as well, but this professionalization of amateur sports, right? And this especially in baseball. I feel like, and softball and basketball are equally as guilty of this problem as well. But so one of the things you highlighted in the article is balancing athletic pursuits with academic achievement, right? And can you share what are specific examples of, how guys can, balance those two things? Because I mean, I call this thing is kind of this is not my term. This is someone else I listen to, but it's this cult of achievement, right?
Yeah.
Every parent, every player's I've got to be the best at baseball, but then I also got to play 2 instruments, and then I got to know 3 languages to make myself the most attractive to colleges somewhere. But it's how can you balance, I want to be an athlete, but I also want to be a quality student, and then finding the right mix of, when you're trying to go to college, right? What's the school? How's that school going to help you outside of the athletics?
Right. Yes. The first thing you have to realize is that, 98% of, unfortunately, I think it could be higher, but 90% of the high school players are not going to play college sports. Although in baseball, quite frankly, it's not that difficult to get a college scholarship if you go about it the right way. And that's a problem, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it's really not what you're going to be doing in college most likely. So you have to back away a little bit and say, I think we don't ask why enough, Cole. We don't ask why. Why am I playing fall ball? Why am I playing multiple sports? Why am I really going to college? I mean, if I told my parents, hey, I think I don't want to do homework tonight, I'm going to go out and play baseball with my friends, what would your parents say? And yet those same parents are allowing these kids to play one sport all year round, one sport on multiple teams year round. There are multiple sports during multiple seasons, right? And now they're trying to all of a sudden say, oh, but wait a minute, you need to have a balanced life. Okay, it's not. It's completely out of whack. What we have to realize if we're pursuing sports at a high level is sports is an obsession and a seduction in America. I mean, it really is. Think about it, right? We play, like I said, multiple sports year round. We play the same sport for multiple teams. You guys know that you have high school players playing on their school team Monday through Friday and on a club ball team Saturday and Sunday, right?
Right.
And it's the same. You'll have this last year, I had players play, they played baseball Monday through Friday, soccer or lacrosse on Saturday, and football on Sunday with the same standards and the same, that's
right.
And it's fun, but you can't tell me at some point they're going to burn out, and you can't tell me that at some point, if they love it and do really well, that they're going to have the desire to have a balance in their life, they're not. It's just completely out of whack. Think about it. We play, I mean, this is great. We play school ball, club ball, travel ball, AAU ball, perfect game ball, right? All of those things. And sometimes at the same time, it's just completely out of whack. So,
so so I was
do,
gonna my boss Jason has he has an athlete we just talked about today who came in yesterday, but he's played baseball the last 10 months consecutively, and he had a fracture in his elbow in the middle of that. So I'm talking to Jason, and I'm just like, Jason goes like, I just told him you just need to take the month off, dude. or multiple months, right? You've just burned yourself out on this game, and I fault. We can always be at fault for it, but like I'm one of those guys. I'm so like anti fall ball almost to a fault, where I can't sometimes see kids like maybe it would benefit you, but I'm like,
I listened to your last podcast. I was listening to your last podcast and all the questions, the Q&A, and a lot of them had to do with fall ball, right? And this is what I mean. Why are you playing fall ball? I mean, let's just start with that. If you're there to have fun, I'm totally okay with it. But if you think that you are going to actually get better as a baseball player, then you've missed this whole athlete piece. You're not taking the 4 months you need to become a better athlete, right? And you're really not understanding how well you have trained. And if you haven't trained to get better, then guess what? Exposure is going to get you exposed, right?
Yeah.
Exposure is going to get you exposed, meaning you're really not that good, right? So if it's just having fun with your friends, great, go do it. But ask yourself, what do I really expect out of it?
Well,
yeah.
I do have a little quick story. It's like, I know you'll enjoy this, but I have a kid that I work with currently. He's 8th-ish grade, which is kind of like the beginning of the cutoff that I work with. I usually try to, like, if you're high school, I'm all for it, but youth, it's like I get a little skittish around it. But he's like right on that cutoff, right? And I did the eval with him, and I'm talking to his dad after we've gone through the whole mechanical breakdown, and we use our TrackMan here. I'm like, here's what you're good at, here's what you're not good at, and all that. And I basically kind of just told him, like, fall ball just might not be good for you, right? And he looks at his dad and he goes like, but I love fall ball. I hit 600 last fall.
Right.
And I'm like, well, so then that wasn't a good fall league for you, dude. It's like I told him
story, and then I've got one for you that I tell on every podcast and to every coach's clinic. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, but I just go like, all right, if you're like back in 7th grade or whatever, and you're doing like spelling tests every week, like if you're getting 100% on every test, like that's not the level of language arts for you, right? It's like if you're comprehending all these stories, or you're comprehending all this literature that your English teacher's giving you, like, all right, then that's not challenging you.
And I have a saying that
hitting 600
batting averages
is not a challenging
are like
league.
Grades. They're only impressive if the standards were really high, if you had to compete against really tough elite competition, and most importantly, if you had to work very, very hard to achieve the results. All right. So your 600 average, if a college scout can't look at you and see, those mechanics are going to translate to our level and our pitching, right? If that competition isn't really good, and if all that came way too easy to you, then we don't have a place for you, right? And so I'll tell you the story that I tell all the time. It happened about 15 years ago. I was at a college watching 2 club ball teams play, and they were 2 of the best club ball teams in the Portland area. Okay, I was there watching the shortstop for one team because I had worked with him since he was 9 years old, and he already had a scholarship. All right. So after the game was over, and this was early in the summer season, after the game was over, the 5 coaches that I was sitting with, they were from all levels, community college through D1. And they all started to get up and say, hey, guys, hold just one second. I got to ask this question. I already know the answer, but I want to be able to tell this story forever and ever. So of the 22 guys interested for your program, and I said, don't tell me. Two, the shortstop on this team, the one that, I was there and who already had a scholarship, and the left fielder on the other team. And they said, that's right. And they said, I said, why is that? He said, because the game result didn't mean anything. A, the pitching wasn't very good, and B, the skills that I watched were not going to translate to our level. They're just not any good. And I said, well, how about this? Um, what level of interest do you think you might have if you came back at the end of the summer to watch them play after they played another 40 or 50 games? They all said, zero. We're not coming back to watch these guys. I said, why is that? Again, knowing the answer, right? Is it because they're not going to get any better at their skills? They're playing against so-so competition, and I can see already the way they throw field and hit a baseball, not going to translate to our level. So I don't care if they're on this club team or not. I don't care if they're hitting Sammy soft serve for bombs every time.
Right.
They're not gonna be somebody I'm interested in, right? So you have to get an objective opinion. I tell guys objectively, here's what you need to know. If you're basing your value and your ability on the players on your team or in your league, you've got a big fish in a small pond syndrome. Okay. You better be at least all state, and you better really be, comparing yourself to players on a regional or national level, because the elite programs, that's who they get to choose from. They don't care about the best players in your league. They don't care about what you hit. And I'll tell you another thing while we're on this. Here's another. I try to give you these high school players an objective standard. Let's talk about what college coaches look for and what pro scouts look for. In Oregon, the best pitchers, say Noble Meyer at Jesuit, who went number 10 this year overall in the draft to Miami, he pitches on Monday. All the college pitchers pitch on Monday. So the coaches don't care what your overall average is. They care what's your Monday average. If you're 3 for 4 against Noble Meyer and one of those hits was in the 6th or 7th inning that knocked in 2 runs, the tying and winning run, I'm interested. I'm not interested in the other 2 games of the week, right? Same thing at college. Pro players, the pro scouts, they don't care what your Saturday and Sunday average is. They care what your Friday average is, because the number ones, they pitch on Friday. All right? So tell me what your Friday average is, right? That's what they care about. So this whole standard of, what I'm comparing myself to, first of all, you're using an aluminum bat. A $400 aluminum bat disguises a lot of mechanical flaws, right? So let's put a wood bat in your hand. Let's put you against Noble Meyer, and now if you go 3 for 4, we can talk. Otherwise, you're really setting yourself up for a false standard. Jeff McKay, who was an MLB scout, he runs and did for years in Portland, ran a college preps showcase here in Portland, and he used to pitch BP to the players there, and he would require 2 things. Number 1, a wood bat, and number 2, he would just soft toss, flips from the side to the players. You know what? He never once looked behind him to where the hit went. He could watch their mechanics in the batter's box, and he could listen to the sound off of the wood bat, and he knew whether that player had any ability and had good mechanics or not. The only time I ever saw him in all those years that I had players play for his teams look behind him is when he had doubt whether it was going to be over the fence or hit the fence. Other than that, he had no doubt what the result of it was. He could see it, and without technology, by the way, he could see it and hear it off the bat. Okay, so anyway, these are little lessons that players have to learn. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Oh my, I know. All right, so bringing it back into the looking for the college choices. What are some specific strategies that you preach to your kids about when they're looking for whatever that next level school is for that they're looking into? So what I always preach to our guys, it's always look at the academics first. Always look at like, are you a big town guy or are you a small town guy, right? Is it a school size that you're comfortable with? Like, do you like the smaller school? Do you like the bigger school? Are you going to be able to play within the first 2 years that you're there? Because how many guys will go to a
Yeah.
college and not see the field for 3 years and just kind of just lay away there, or just kind of sit there and just like, oh, I made the wrong decision. I'm like, well, yeah, because you didn't do your due
Okay.
diligence. I think there's too much of
Okay.
I have to
Okay.
be D1, or I have to, like, for us out here, it's
Right.
obviously D1 because
Right.
beyond Northern Colorado and Air Force, we don't have any D1s. And so our pool is very limited on that front. And then everything
Well,
else is
let's go back to what I
Division
said
2,
before. Let's
right?
ask why. Why are
So
you going to
how do
college?
what are your
What's the
strategies that you
purpose of
train
college,
to your guys,
right?
like when
Is it to
objectively
play
looking
baseball?
at the
Is it to
next
play a
level?
sport? Is that their primary purpose for college? It's not. So the first thing you need to do is forget about your sport. I tell guys all the time, here's a
Right.
litmus test. If your career ends tomorrow through injury, non-playing time, or whatever, then are you still excited to attend that college? Because if not, you made the wrong choice, because your career most likely is going to end either during the time you're at college or the day you graduate. And then what are you left with? So you've got to choose a college based on a career that this college is going to be the best at preparing you for through education and job experience. That's got to come first. So you have to decide possible career paths first, and which colleges are going to be have the best programs for that. And there's a whole process, for determining that. But we can get into that or not. But there's a process by which. But ask yourself this: if you choose this college as for whatever reason, baseball or sport or otherwise, and you're now a freshman at that school, and all of a sudden you have to declare a major, and you're sitting there with beer and pizza, what's the process, dude? How are you going to go about choosing it? Did they prepare you for this? And oh, by the way, if they don't offer it, you can't study it or be exposed to it. And just because they offer it through a name, oh, we have a business marketing
Yeah.
program. I knew one of my players went to a small college, played baseball there, got a scholarship there, and came out with a business marketing degree that was no better than the community college here in Portland. And now he's selling paint, right? He's got that degree. It didn't do him any good because he didn't do his due diligence, as you said, about choosing the college based on a career and understanding that not all colleges are the same. And I can give you several examples of how colleges are different and how players players that didn't listen made the mistake of going to a college for sports first and ended up with all kind of disadvantages coming out of it. All right. So do you want some examples or do you want to move on? I can give you some examples. Probably the single biggest problem that we have with players that are really committed to be good players. They can't give up their sport when they've worked at it and committed all this time and effort, and neither can their parents from the time that they were 6, 7 years old. And their parents don't want their kids to come out of college with all this debt. Well, guess what? If you come out of college with a really good job and a really good career, that debt's going to go away pretty fast. But more importantly, your child's going to be much happier if they've got great job opportunities and a career they're really excited about. Okay? So I'll give you an example, a couple of quick examples. Number one, I had two players interested in the same college, and they were both going to be kinesiology majors. One, though, was going to be a physical therapist, and one was going to be more sports science, personal training, that type of thing.
Right.
Well, the physical therapy program, same college, same kinesiology department, was rated 31st in the country. The sports science part of it for personal training was rated 452nd in the country. And you're going, how is that? Different professors, different facilities, different job experiences, the ability to get them job shadows and internships and then jobs after they graduate, completely different experiences. Same college, same department within the college, all right? Another one of my players was a physical therapy major at a small college here. He was twice all conference in baseball, once all conference in football. And he thought, as a student athlete, because he'd been told student athletes are prized, that for the rest of his life, that would be a great thing, something that's great. So he applied to 10 physical therapy schools and was rejected by all of them because his college did not prepare him for the complete applicant and what they were looking for at the top 10 physical therapy schools in the country. And he got rejected by all of them. So he had to spend an additional 2 years, long story short, doing it right before one of them finally accepted him. Right? So you've got to do your homework and understand they're not all the same. They don't offer all the same programs. And even if they do offer the same programs, it doesn't mean those programs are any good. All right. So it's,
Right.
yeah.
So, I mean, you basically already answered the question 3 to that. So we can, but I like what are like specific things that, like, for guys who maybe have that fear of that transition, right? How do you train them or talk to them and consult them into, here's how it cannot be that scary. And, like you said, like for parents, for players, like, you've, invested all of this money to improve your kid as an athlete, or you put him on the best travel ball teams or the best, what have you. Make sure he's on some PBR, all-state team, and he goes to the West Coast games or whatever PBR does these days. I don't really know, but it's, then the career just kind of just ends. Right. There's not like a whole like climax like in a movie. Like this is not a Rudy type of thing. And you got your one shot of glory and then it's just done. Like, what is that transition, or what are those conversations you have with those athletes that have that fear of that transition?
Yeah. I think you have to bring the parents along for the ride in educating them about the truth that half of the students that go to college don't graduate. Less than 15% of them actually use the degree that they studied for. And of those, a very small percentage actually come out with a career they're really passionate about. And then you have to relate to them in common sense examples, that the one I gave to you before, if your son or daughter came home and said, I'm not doing homework tonight, I'm going to go out and play my sport, what would you have said? All the way through their academic career leading up to college, you would have said no way. And yet now all of a sudden they're in college and they have this lure of a scholarship to go play for this college in their sport. And all of a sudden you're all for it. This doesn't make any sense. What are we doing here? Again, when they graduate, what are they coming out with? They're coming out with a piece of paper that's going to get them what? Okay. So what is it you want for your child? And you have to, I think, start preparing them for this. Like I say, my program, the Career and College Counseling Program, starts before their junior year in high school. And it's a program where both the players and the parents are involved. So we start getting them to think about, you know what? If we can marry the sport with the best possible academic choices, fantastic. Let's do it. All right. We can continue on. We can get our some of our tuition paid through the scholarship, etc. But we got to make sure we have our priorities straight, and we're going there for the right reasons, and we're going to be happy with the outcome after 4 years, have occurred. So it's. I think you have to tell them, look, what's really important here. And I think it's the long-term happiness of your child, which is not likely to come through prioritizing the sport over the career and the academics, right? Now, some of them don't even realize basic things. Like in Portland, we have a wood bat independent league here, and I know they have semi-pro and wood bat leagues all over the country. The quality of play in that league, and oh, by the way, they give out medals and trophies too, right? It's as good as any D3 community college program, maybe even D2 program around. They have, why? Because they have nothing but former D1, D2 players playing in it. So if you want to go and play baseball and have a lot of fun and compete at a high level, go right ahead. But you don't have to leave town. You don't have to prioritize playing baseball and give up your academic pursuits, which should be your priority. to do it. They have intramural programs that some of them are really, really high level programs that are in different sports. So it doesn't mean you have to give up your sport completely. You're just not playing it as a part of an organized sport for the school anymore. So, but it's a tough sell, I will tell you. The kid and the
Right.
parents have put in a lot of time, and let's be honest, we're obsessed with sports. Everybody, I mean, even little leaguers in the Little League World Series along the way are getting top 10 Sports Center
Right.
moments, and all of a sudden, every
Right.
parent thinks
Yeah,
that my kid's going to be
it's too
next,
much like
and that's the priority.
getting
It's like
entranced
I
by a
want my kid
flash
to
in
have
the
a
pan
Sports
kind of
Center moment.
moment. Right.
Okay, and then what?
Like
What comes after that, right? Yeah.
right, and that's what, and you're so right, spot on with that. And even how many little leaguer people that played in the Little League World
Yeah,
Series have
it's
gone on
tough,
to
but very
you
temporary.
know college, even though the majors, like what's like some like 3% maybe. And that might be pushing it, or but yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the problem. Players who started. Here's the problem. We can all name them. Little leaguer and went up through, or every hard luck story, or every professional player that comes on a podcast who was overlooked, late developer, or whatever. You hear inspirational story after inspirational story after inspirational story, right? That's fantastic, but it's not reality. It's not. Okay, so great. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try, but at the same time, we have to keep life in balance, right? We have to make sure that we have all the bases covered and we're not obsessing about this just because some isolated random person happened to make it. We have to realize that those are aberrations. Those are by far and away the exceptions. They can be inspirational,
right.
but let's not base our life to the exclusion of the other things on that one possibility. Okay, so that's
Right.
I think you have to be real. I don't know how many parents are. They all say, "Well, that could be you someday," and the players believe it, and that's great.
Right.
That's inspirational. That's fantastic. But come on, are we not going to really take an objective look at how good a student we are? Are these grades coming really too easy? Are we not getting any kind of job experience so we have some idea of what type of profession we might want to get into? Do we not know the difference between a favor and a chore? Right? We're talking about preparing kids for life. Yeah, and
it's a little bit like
Go ahead.
it's a little bit like when you're a young kid and your parents tell you you can be a cowboy or a princess, right? But how are you going to do that?
Right. I mean,
So
go ahead. Yeah, move on.
no, I was gonna move on if you got one last thought.
I was just going to say, we talk about how we can prepare our players for life in really practical ways. And it comes down to some things like, do they know the difference between a chore and a favor? Taking out the trash is not a chore. It's a favor. Okay. Cleaning your room is not a chore. A chore is something that takes at least a half an hour and you can work up a sweat in. Okay. You want to have a pitcher be tough on the mound. Well, have him go apply for a job and actually have to interview for it all by himself. Put them in situations where they have to be by themselves, earn something on their own. Okay. And then all of a sudden being on the mound in a pressure situation is not so tough anymore, because forever I have been required to do things, get out of my comfort zone, be comfortable being uncomfortable in life settings. Right. So,
right.
Anyway. Okay.
So now we can move on to our next segment, which still kind of deals with, we've talked about it already.
Yeah.
It's the ever growing and complex topic of sports specialization.
Oh boy.
So you've got a bunch of articles, and your main one is the for really putting into perspective on it's a multifaceted problem, right? There's not a yes or no, like should I specialize in the sport, should I play in multiple sports?
Right.
And considering the insights you've brought on in throughout your career, like what are some pivotal realizations or things that have led to your comprehensive approach in mentoring young athletes on whether they should specialize or should not specialize?
Right. Okay, so as America's honesty broker, we're gonna blow up the internet here. I'm going to, for the first time ever, in the history of any podcast in America going to not say that in every instance you should play multiple sports. I mean, okay, we've just gone viral, we've just blown up the internet because no one will come on any podcast and even remotely suggest that there might be an instance where you should not play multiple sports. Okay, and so I'm going to be the person that's going to try to give you tell it like it's straight. I spend a lot of time, Cole, watching soccer, football, basketball practices at all levels. Okay. And I get that there are many, many advantages, potential advantages to playing multiple sports. We all know them. I get it. I know it. Most people grew up benefiting from it. I mean, using your brain and body in a uniquely challenging way, developing your mind and body and connection to, mind body connection to be a better athlete and a more confident person with higher self-esteem, learning to compete in a physical way, which for baseball players, I think is key. One of the main drawbacks to only playing baseball, I think, is when it comes time that you really need to be a dirtbag, you really need to be a dude. Give me all the football, wrestling, water polo players I can get. Those guys in the trenches, they know that. Okay, so there's major advantages there. Learning to compete in different environments. I mean, being across the line in the trenches, O-line, D-line is completely different than being on the mound or being at first base on a baseball field. Being competitive on a basketball court, completely different than being a water polo player in a pool. So those are all really good. Competing under pressure to win championships. Some guys are lucky enough to go to schools and they compete for a championship almost every year in their sports. And so the idea that, we're in a championship game or making deep runs in a playoff every year, that really makes us tough come to the baseball season. I don't know what it is in Colorado, in Oregon, and many states, baseball is last. So if you've competed for a championship in football, you competed for a championship in basketball, or whatever your sports are leading up to it, that's going to make you that much tougher in your baseball drives, right? So, and then adapting to different coaching styles and different teammates, that's huge, right? So we can go on and on. So there's a lot of advantages to competing in multiple sports. But let's take a step back and say, if I want to be the best possible baseball player I can be, given that you might be able to get all of these advantages in playing multiple sports, and we're going to challenge the assumptions, are all of those things true for me and my programs, okay? In me and the sports that I'm going to play at these schools for these coaches, is it really true? So let's start with a positive. Let's start with what everybody says and that I agree with, okay? Up to 8th grade, you're probably better off playing as many sports as you can, all right? It's fun. It's for all the benefits that go along with it as you and a growing body and a developing youth player. Up to 8th grade, absolutely, all right? If the only thing you want, even in high school, is just to have fun and be on a team, play as hard as you can, be with your friends, play as many sports as you can. You only go around once, right? Now, the question is, and a lot of the professional athletes that are interviewed and say, oh, yeah, you should play professional sport, it won't take away from, matter of fact, it not only won't take away from your baseball development, it'll actually help it. Well, those same guys were the starting quarterback in football, the starting point guard in basketball, and the starting shortstop in baseball, who had really short learning curves. Well, yeah, it's going to work for them. All right. There's no question in my mind. It's going to work for them. And oh, by the way, they loved each of those sports equally. They had a growth mindset equally about all of those. They were willing to accept failure as part of the equation for each and every sport. All right. Were the coaches coaching the athletes, not just the players? Were the coaches and their programs, were the football players not just in their weight room lifting weights and trying to max out benches and deadlifts and things like that, but then they get through, were they individually assessed? Were they using technology like force plate production and things like that, so that you were actually going to develop as an athlete, not just as a player to try to win games in football or basketball, right? You are actually being challenged. And are those skills transferable to baseball? Okay, I had an assistant coach who played for the Dallas Cowboys one year, and this is an exaggeration. He said, Adam, the only time you use bench press in football is to push off the guy that just tackled you. Right? And it's, that's an exaggeration, but what he was trying to say is, some of the stuff that goes on in high school weight rooms don't really translate very well. Matter of fact, can be even counterproductive to what goes on, in a proper baseball development, right? The other thing is, do you play a lot of games? In other words, are you actually a starter? If you're a second string guard on the football team, a second string power forward on the basketball team, but the starting third baseman or catcher on the baseball team, maybe there's better things you can do with your time than sit on a bench and cheer on your teammates in football and basketball, right? And also, is the coach really giving you individual attention to coach you as an athlete, or are they just giving auditory cues to run faster, push harder? I mean, is that really the kind of instruction that a nationally certified strength and conditioning coach would give you to get better, to get, more athletic? No, it isn't. And yet that, if you go watch the actual practices for football players, soccer players, or whatever, they're not getting a lot of specific how-to. They're just being told, you need to do this and go here so we can play better and win more games. Now, let me say this. If the alternative, this is when you should play multiple sports, if the alternative is to simply play baseball games the year round, play fall ball, spring ball, summer ball, fall ball, and more baseball, that's not going to be a good alternative either. That's not how you're going to get better. That's a bad choice. So if you're going to not play multiple sports and simply go and play more baseball games, that's a really, really bad idea. So here's, in summary, here's when you should consider not playing multiple sports. When those things are not true, okay? When you're not elite, maybe you're average to above average, your learning curve is not really fast in baseball. When you've got coaches that are all about wins and championships, not really into developing the person or the athlete, when your growth mindset is not the same with all the sports, when you're not playing a lot, and if you're willing to play, or let's start with this. If you're willing to go and be trained by a nationally certified strength and conditioning and movement specialist who has a track record of training elite baseball players. You cannot tell me that if you train for 4 or 5 months in the fall, say, with somebody like that, and you would not get more, and you spent the same number of hours doing it that you spent at football practice, and you would not come out further ahead as an athlete and as a baseball player than just, attending football practice time in and time out. You absolutely would come out ahead. So the other thing is, let's keep balance in our life. Are you sure you're really that good a student?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to make sure that we're a great student and prioritize that. Are you getting volunteer work experience and job experience? Real career decision on? Very few, because they've spent their whole life pursuing sports. They don't have any balance in their life. Okay, so let me just say this in ending. If you're going to play multiple sports, I would challenge you to think about very critically what sport you're going to play and why. There is far too few athletes pursuing things like martial arts. If you know anybody that is into martial arts and the connection between mind and body there, and the mental discipline that it takes to be elite in jiu-jitsu or any of the martial arts, that translates really well to a tough baseball player. And so I actually martial arts, rock climbing, swimming, anything that causes you to use your whole body in a coordinated, synchronized manner. Maybe you don't have to do your sport 5-6 days a week, maybe you can do one of these other sports 2 days a week and then also train with a nationally certified strength and conditioning and movement specialist. You're going to come out way ahead.
Right. I
So
have
that's
one of my oldest students is a sophomore in high school already. He's already a black belt in Taekwondo. And
yeah.
he's bar none one of like the better athletes that we have. He's
Oh
one of
yeah.
those he'll be a late bloomer. I'm like once he hits that growth spurt, it's going to be, to the moon for him, right? But like
Absolutely.
one thing I was going to say, like you're talking about your assistant coach that played for the Cowboys, right? Like where the bench press is only applicable.
Yeah.
So one of the
Yeah.
things that we like to brag about here at FAST is one of our lead of performance here. His name's Joel Rather. He was
Yeah.
2020's NSCA strength and conditioning coach of the year. So I mean, he's got plenty of credentials. But he said something very similar when I had him on about a month and a half ago, where it's like, bench press is cool and all, but like, in what sport are we ever lying on our back? If we're lying on our back, something's fucked up. Like we're not where we're supposed to be if we're lying on our back in our sport. Like other
Here's
than
something
like actual,
Go ahead.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say like there are so many, if any, sports that anyone that's going to listen to the show is like on your back is not an optimal position to be in any sport regardless. Right. So
Exactly.
but you're right. Like, why is there so much specific attention on high school strength coaches? Like, we got to make sure we bench and get to whatever certain level. And it's like, but that's not it's applicable in some aspects, but to overall athletic development, it's not going to help. But like you said, I thought you were so spot on if you're going to specialize, you can't just straight up play games. That's not going to help you.
No, no.
You've got to find almost other ventures to, work around that, whether that's a training with a hitting coach or a pitching coach or a fielding coach, and then getting into the weight room with a qualified strength coach, right?
Absolutely. Here's something that players don't understand, at all, and that is the difference between the absolute strength continuum, just being strong,
Yeah.
and having functional strength. There's at some point you have to realize that, bench pressing for a baseball player, 350 pounds, deadlifting 400 or 500 pounds for a high school, baseball player maybe isn't where it's at. You need to get to somebody that's actually going to train you to apply what you're doing in your training to your sport. So you can't just be strong. Strong is the foundation for power. You have to be able to apply and transfer force quickly, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't understand that, and if you're not being trained to do that, you've got a big problem. And here's something that a lot of high schoolers don't get. If they watch any combine, NFL combine, NBA combine, MLB combine, okay, these are the best of the best players, all Americans, multiple time All Americans, and yet what do the scouts say? What do the sports pundits say? This guy stands out because of his athleticism. What? I mean, that should blow them away. It's like they can be an All-American in football and still be not as athletic as another guy who's also an All-American. There's actually a difference between All-Americans in their athleticism. Yeah, there is. And that's what good scouts, college scouts, see. They can look at a player and take away in their mind the glove, the bat, the ball, and just analyze the player's movement, whether it's a pitcher and his fluidity and his ability to repeat the motion. They can just look at the player and see the athlete. Same thing with a shortstop, in the way that he moves to field, transfers, and throws. He can see the athlete. And those that have athletic training, really legit athletic training that they may or may not be getting in their other sports, they stand out. You can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than just running fast and jumping high. Okay? There's a lot more to how you move your body in a coordinated, synchronized manner, So,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, like what I say, like Joel, one of our strength coaches, and our other strength coach, John Cole, we call him JC.
Mhm.
That's what we talk about. We watch the combine for the NFL because we've had a lot of NFL guys come through here, but it's like that's just there for TV. That's there for the NFL wants to be just they want more TV time as much as they can suck out of it. It's the same thing with the NBA combine, the MLB combine. It's like how can we suck up
Right.
as much content as possible and get people to watch totally pointless people watch totally pointless drills that doesn't actually
Right.
translate to the game, right? But like
Right.
there's a difference between being really like you're saying really athletic versus instinctually athletic, right? And like you listen to enough sports podcasts and like, listen to like people who play in the NFL or play in at the professional level in a sport. Like there's a difference between 40-yard dash fast and game fast. Like
Can't be trained. Yes, there are players who have natural athletic skills, no question about it. But like the people that you were talking about that work for fast, this can be trained. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm sorry it have happened to you. You're going to have to devote it is going to pay off in how well you play against elite competition, because the adjustments that you have to make as a player when the game gets fast in order to let the play slow down, it's all about your athletic training. It's not about how many not how many games you played, let's put it that way, and it's not how many reps that you've taken at a certain position. It all starts with the foundation of your athleticism and how well you've been trained in that way.
right. So we'll wrap up I mean, that was a really good, awesome conversation on specialization. I thought that was really good. But can you share a story or an anecdote where you witnessed an athlete flourish, not just in their chosen sport, but also in a broader life endeavors that they due to this approach, right? Like they specialized in baseball and they maximized everything they could, right? They did the strength work, they did the classroom stuff, they did everything they could to prepare themselves.
Right, right. Well, I have a lot of players in my that's been in my program for the last 15 years that have done that. Um, to pick out one, I'm at a loss right now, maybe to pick out one that I tend to get the letters or emails, texts of appreciation. And as my wife says, maybe I don't give them as much due as the ones where I lived through the heartache where they didn't buy into the approach. And so those people that, like I said, ended up selling paint when I really felt like there was more there to that than them, or didn't get accepted to the grad school that they should have been accepted to because they didn't do the approach. I just know that the players and coaches that have adopted this have seen results in the satisfaction the coaches receive from the players sharing with them what it meant to have them care about them as a person in the long term. And the players come back and say, you know what you taught me helped me to get a job, helped me to be a better parent, helped me to be a better spouse. I mean, a parent just came up to me the other day and said, I want to thank you for what you did to my son, Hunter. We were out at a family reunion, and he back in Minnesota, and he's always been a very shy young man, and I've never seen him like this before. He was going around to everyone, looking them in the eye, giving them a strong handshake, and he was able to carry on a conversation with them, and he didn't even know these people. I taught him the FORD acronym, Family, Occupation, Recreation, Dreams, and he was able to use it with everybody that he met. And I just sat back and looked at him and I said, who is this guy? I don't even recognize him. So this was so far beyond baseball. It was just him learning how to be a better
Just a
person
human,
and a more
just being human.
just a human being. And well, I'll just give you another example. And self-interest here. My grandson, tried out for a team last year, and the first thing he did was walk over to the coaches and give them all a really firm handshake. And they said, boy, somebody taught you right. And then they asked him, so what position do you play? And he said, whatever position you need me to play to help the team win. And I said, yikes, that approach is going to take you a long way in life, dude. So,
Right.
that's, those are just examples off the top of my head, but I really believe in the approach. It really matters.
Right. No, I like, especially the grandson story. I wish there were definitely a lot more athlete. Like, I just left the high school baseball realm. Now I just kind of work in the training spot. I'm like, it would have definitely helped a lot of kids, like, if they just kind of had that approach and just be like,
Exactly.
just come. Like, it definitely would have me a little bit more invested in you.
Exactly. Yeah. It really
So
does.
we'll move on to our final segment of all the
Oh
things we
yeah.
wanted to talk about that were the most you in your eyes when we discussed off camera, like the most valuable to the audience. And the last one we think was the be careful not to use or overuse, technology and coaching. And I think it's such a big piece and we're such a technologically driven world now. When I tell this to guys all the time, where like I graduated high school in 2012, like really officially graduated college about 2016-ish. But I'm like, I tell you guys all the time, like, you guys have so many advantages that like you never had, that I never had, where like we can see, like we can use TrackMan, or we can use Rhapsodo, we can use HitTrax and whatever. Like we can see spin rates, we can see velocities, we can see we can see all these things that will help players develop their skills and become marketable athletes like you talk about. But it definitely comes
Yeah.
with that. There are some drawbacks with that, right?
Yeah. I think it goes back cold to what we were saying about balance too. So, I mean, let's start with the, principle that if you're going to connect to youth today, you better have some knowledge and ability to relate to them technology. They've grown up with technology since before they could talk. My 2-year-old grandson has an iPad that he can navigate around better than I can, maybe, and he can't talk yet. So if you're going to connect with youth, you better have some ability to, use technology in your coaching with them. All right. The thing that, again, we have to be careful of is where the parents are trying so hard to give the child, the player, the best opportunity and the most, and again, like you said, things that they didn't have when they were a child, that they take them to all these places with all of these technological programs and devices. They turn out data, metrics, analytics out the kazoo, and they convince the players that, you know what, you started out with an exit velo of 80, and wow, now you're at 95. That's awesome. All the money you spent with us was really well spent. And the players and parents think that, this was a really good idea. And then they realize that, if I can't catch up to that fastball, what's the exit velo?
Right.
If I can't get on plane with an elite breaking pitch, slider, sweeper, whatever, what's the exit velo? They're all
Right.
zero, right? So you've got to remember that these companies have an interest, and some coaches have an interest in just the data itself, just your exit velo, just your spin rate, just whatever. And that doesn't necessarily mean that in the game it's going to translate to results. Okay. And yet they're going to charge you a ton of money because they're in the business to make money. Okay.
Right.
So you've got to be careful that you don't over rely on the technology to predict your results. Technology can be garbage in, garbage out, right? It is results based on predetermined input, some of which may really not need technology at all to get better results. I can look at any player at any level, and trust me, I spend a lot of the time screaming at the TV screen, analyzing the swings of the Mariners, my team, and I don't need any program or technology to look and tell what's wrong, that they've got their hands and bat and arms are in the wrong position at the beginning of their swing. They've got a weight transfer problem. They got a stride timing problem. These all relate to the contact that they're going to make with the baseball. I don't need a technology program to tell me that. I can look at a player's stance and swing, and I can tell you the holes in that swing before they even step up to the plate. And any good coach can. So let's spend time getting everything right with our eyes, and then we'll see if we need technology to go from there. Then there's the whole mental emotional piece. You can't take the technology with you out to the field or out to the mound. Okay, you have to be able to overcome adversity, to pick up your teammates, to do all those mental emotional things without technology. And yet players today have relied on technology for almost everything, from their information to their computer games to whatever. They're not very socially adept. They're, quite frankly, socially inept. They don't know anything about verbal and nonverbal cues. They don't know anything about handling adversity themselves and for a teammate, because they're not real social people. Okay, so when things go bad, they don't have the technology out there to say, you know what, it's not really your exit velo or your spin rate that's the problem. Do you have the ability to feel that your grip needs to be adjusted? Do you have the ability to feel that your body is out of sync and that you need to do something in your delivery to get your timing back so that you're more in rhythm and in sync with your body? That's what you need to make adjustments on the fly in the game in real time. Okay, so these skills are what's so important about coaching the person, right? And not just the athlete and not just the player. This person is not going to be a leader through technology. This person is not going to adapt to an umpire squeezing them or giving up back-to-back bombs, and now the game is 3-2 and not 3-0 through technology. You've had to compete at a high level in practice and under pressure, and they've had to be pulled out of their comfort zone in school and in their life, and now all of a sudden they can be on the mound what they are in life, right? So this is beyond technology, and I think sometimes we're too anxious to please the parents and too anxious to compete with other programs, both school and private training programs in our technology, and we're neglecting the personal piece that's going to make them a better person, which will make them a better athlete and will make them a better player and ultimately a better person in life. Okay, so that's really the summary there.
Where in your experience have you found like the happy medium, right, between the personable coaching versus utilizing things like because you're a little bit more of a hitting guy, like a blast motion to see hand speed and on plane, everything like whatever on plane efficiency. I forget all the stats that blast motion utilizes, and then utilizing things like a hit tracks to see how hard a kid maybe hits the ball, because it helps to. I think hit tracks is very good to gamify the training, right, and see like, okay, what I'm doing is building me results, right? Like if you're on plane and your hands are in the right spot, you're probably going to hit the shit out of the ball, right? And but it helps to have kind of a little bit of a confirmation, right?
Well, let's use a real quick example, Cole. This I think will sum it all up and kind of put things in perspective. The first thing you have to do is connect with a player using technology to establish a baseline of where the player's at. Okay, and then you can use the technology after your training to show the improvement into the player, to kind of build them up. And you can do some very basic things and get them to improve right away. But then here's what a lot of coaches don't do. They need to give the player a dose of reality. Instead of just pumping up the player with cage bombs off a tee to, making a few adjustments and a few drills, and all of a sudden he's improved his exit velo or his, swing speed or whatever. Now all of a sudden, let's try to challenge him, do what we call challenge reps, and give him randomized game-like repetitions to show him that maybe just having great exit velo off a tee or off flips or off cookie
Right.
front toss pitching is really not going to translate to the game. When I randomize the pitches that you're getting, the reps that you're getting, and all of a sudden they're at a velo and spin rate and spin axis that you're going to start seeing in the game, and you can't hit it, now all of a sudden we've got to take a step back and say, okay, let's train this a little differently. Then when you take the bat out of their hands and say, you know what, the first thing we need to do is get you more mobile in your hips, because you're not even able to get hip mobility. So where you're squared, your laces or your back shoe are facing the pitcher. We have to plyometrically train you so that you're able to transfer weight like this. And we've got to train you in your core, so your core muscles and your rotational speed is such that you can actually catch up to that fastball with an elite velo. Then you emphasize to them, the athletic piece has to come next. And before they're going to do those things, take failure as a player, accept training as an athlete. They've got to trust you that you understand them as a person. Mm-hmm. They're not going to take it too well if they think you're just being hard on them just to get a win or just to make the team better. If they know that you care about them beyond the sport, in the classroom, as a person, they're going to be okay with, okay, he's not just being hard on me for the sake of being hard. He has my long-term best interest in mind. I'm going to trust him to train me as an athlete and to develop me as a player. Okay? Right. So that's how the holistic approach works in the real world. Now, all of a sudden, you're not only developing great players, but you're developing great athletes and great people, which will translate to other sports and in life.
Right.
So that's how it needs to work. So you start with technology to connect with them, to establish a baseline, to get them to improve. It's like, okay, this is cool. I'm used to technology. I'm used to getting what I want impulsively from technology. But we know to be a complete player and athlete and person, you need a lot more than that. So we've got to have all three things being trained, developed.
Right.
Okay.
No, I mean, that was, in my opinion, I think you really hit the nail on the head. Probably wrapping up here pretty quickly, but I always leave everybody I always ask one question for everybody that I have on, and because you've been listening, you probably know what it is, but it's what is that biggest piece of advice you would give to listeners of the show, or anyone who comes and finds the show through YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or X as we call it now, whatever the hell Elon calls it. But what's that piece of advice that you give guys that can help drive them throughout the rest of their careers and obviously later into life?
Right. I would say to ask why more often, okay? And to realize that what everybody else is doing in their sport and in their life is maybe not what I should be doing. I shouldn't, play club ball or play multiple sports or whatever just because everybody else is doing it. I need to take a step back and ask, what do I want for my life long term? 5 years out, working backward, how do I get from here to there? And what's the best path for me? And I think that you'll find that you need to have that balance. Don't be afraid to have balance when everybody's out of balance in your life. Don't be afraid to spend extra time studying. Don't be afraid to get a job. Don't be afraid to do volunteer work. Don't be afraid to, have this holistic approach to life. And I think in combination with that, I would say have the same systems in your life that you have in baseball. For example, if you want to be a better athlete, as we know, nutrition is really important. Take nutrition and recovery as seriously as you do your baseball training. Okay?
Sometimes, if not more seriously.
Yeah. If you hear every professional athlete that comes on a podcast, the one thing they wish they would have done as a high schooler and as a youth is take their nutrition and their recovery, their rest, sleep, hydration, and mobility more seriously. That would have facilitated their athletic, and player development so much if they would have done that, right? Can I give one advice to coaches? Do me a favor, give one advice.
Go for it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I promise I'll end on this. This is something that's really, really important to me. And it's something that I've seen a lot of coaches struggle with throughout their career. Even if you do it all right, even if you use the person, athlete, player philosophy, and you are developing what I call champions for life, it takes a lot of really hard work and a lot of time. Okay. And you're going to get accolades from your AD, accolades from your boosters and fans. You're going to get promoted in your job. And that's only going to make things even more challenging when it comes to time management and what you're doing with your career. Just never, ever forget this. Your family loves you, not your job. Make sure that they get the best of you, not the rest of you. Okay? Make sure that all of the hard work and dedication that you're putting toward developing great teams and great players, you're giving equal, if not more, to your family and your life partner at home. There's a whole lot of great coaches that have had way too many divorces, way too much personal hardship because they didn't give the time to their family and their children that they gave to their players and to their teams. So this balance that we're talking about is just as important to the coaches too. And so just remember that your family loves you, not your job. Give them the best of you, not the rest of you. Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Coach Adam Sarancik, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you outside of this, like social media? If you're even on our social media, I tried my hardest. I couldn't find you, other than your websites and your books.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't do social media for personal reasons, and nothing that's happened to me personally. It's just,
right.
Watch the movie, The Creepy Line or The Social Dilemma, and based on everything in there, that's why I'm not on social media. But yeah, coachingchampionsforlife.com, the hot stove page there has a lot of my articles, and then I'm published in the ABCA's Inside Pitch, Collegiate Baseball News, Coaches Insider, Coach Deck, Sports Engine. So you can get a hold of me there. A lot of people just email me directly at asarancik@gmail.com. They send me videos using the OnForm app, and I analyze pitching, hitting, and whatever, and that kind of thing. So all the usual ways. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You going to be at are you going to be at ABCA this next year?
I don't know for sure yet. It's a little, it's coming up obviously pretty soon. But yeah, it's a great event. I just can't recommend their videos and their barnstorming clinics, either in person or their videos. There's a lot of great content through the ABCA, so I would highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Coach Sarancik, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a great pleasure to meet you. It was a great pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. Let's do it again.
Thank you so much to Coach Sarancik for coming on the show this week. I really thank him for all his valuable information, all of his valuable philosophies that I can't wait to utilize in my own coaching practices and everything that we do downstairs in the facility. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to reach out to me, you can go to my Twitter at Cole Thomas Fast. You can go to Instagram, which is also Cole Thomas Fast. You can come if you're interested in everything going on here at Fast Performance. You can go to Fast Performance CEO on Instagram or fastcolorado.com. To follow everything going on with Fast Baseball, we've got a lot of stuff going on right now, getting ready for the fall, getting ready to the fall development season. The off season is getting ready to begin, and we're so excited to get this going underway. If you want to go find them, it's Fast Baseball on Instagram and on TikTok, and as well as Fast Baseball Dev on Twitter. To follow anything that's going on in and around this facility, you want to come find what we're all about down here. Feel free to come reach out, come find us. If you got any questions, please reach out to us. We're happy to help. We're happy to help you guys along with your development and as well as in your careers. One more time. Thank you once again for watching. I know it's been a long day. Make sure to like this video, share it with anybody who might find this very valuable, and then subscribe if you haven't already. This really helps grow the channel, really helps get us better and better guests, bring some better value for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you again to Coach Sarancik so much. Great to have him on, and I will see you all next time.